Yo, we back in this thing.
Hey, Mr. Man, how you doing?
I'm chilling, man. I'm chilling. And I'm chilling because it's starting to get chilly, brother. It's hoodie season.
I know. I was almost going to rock one today and be like, "It's hoodie season," but I really wanted to stress this shirt right now with
yes.
all that's happening in the world.
Absolutely, brother. And the march definitely does continue. Did this week feel like a march to you, brother? There's been a lot going on.
You know that song, "I'm climbing up on the rough side
of the
mountain. I'm doing my best to make it in." I remember a little boy hearing that song and be like, why is the rough side of the mountain? And every day it's done, I'm like, oh yeah.
Get it now.
Oh,
yep.
Oh yeah. The rough side, the rocks are falling down on you. You know, you see people on the other side walking, like, look at this path. And you sitting there trying to get a peg in the hole, trying to fall down.
In some cases, they got a little chairlift. So just
exactly. That goes over you. You got to duck. Come around. Exactly.
Oh, goodness. So, I mean, it's good to see you, brother. And
good to see you too.
Talk to me about that shirt. Why you got it on, brother? What you trying to tell the people?
You know, this. You know, I lead my civil rights tours, and this is a little small tradition I have. When we go to Montgomery, Alabama, we go visit the Southern Poverty Law Center. Wonderful place that I have a lot of respect for. They even have some problems in their leadership, but that's another story. Now there's a Black woman running this, so keep it up, my woman. But they sell these shirts for the gift store, and I always buy one. So I have like 15 of these shirts. It's a good material, and just this line, the march continues. And it's like a way of giving back a little bit of money. I'm bringing like 50, 60 people in there, so I'm doing my part. But I love this notion, the march continues. You know, it's us marching. We can't stop. We can't stop. Yes, there will be an end in sight someday, but you know, the first thing I did right was the day I decided to fight. You know, keep your eyes on the prize. Such a great lyric, right?
Amen.
So, yeah, my shirt is from the Southern Poverty Law Center, and the march continues. And when we need to keep pushing on, I think right now, in the wake of everything in this world that's happening, because it's been a week. You know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg on Friday. You know, all the other things. It's just trying to keep faith and hope and realizing that it continues. It's a continuum.
Yeah, we got what, 3 months left in 2020 after September?
It feels like we got a year left in 2020.
You're right about that. My goodness.
Oh, wow.
My goodness. It's like the t-shirt should say 2020 continues. That's been a march, brother.
It sure has. It sure has. How about you? I see you warming it up.
Oh yeah. So this is a throwback to the college days. So what happened was, after I pledged my fraternity and crossed, your boy, you know, the kid who didn't really have much money in college, but I wanted to look fresh, fly, and have my, you know, Alpha Phi Alpha, you know, paraphernalia without having to purchase stuff. So your boy went to AC Moore, you know, got some regular black hoodies, you know, got a little screen print paper, you know, printed something on a color printer, ironed it on, you know, and I thought I was fresh. But see, this is what happens after you wash it a few times and it gets thrown away and wrinkled or whatnot. So yeah, this is a Young Mix original back in the day, you know?
Hey, you did it yourself. I respect that.
Listen, I was trying to get my FUBU on, man.
It literally is FUBU. It's like the original FUBU.
I was like, I'm fly. I'm like, you can definitely see this is done by an amateur. So yes.
I like it. Well, homemade. That's a version of we got food at home.
Yeah. What I look like buying you a shirt?
Right.
What a shirt for, brother? You got plenty of black hoodies in your closet. What's another one?
Exactly. That's pretty great.
Oh, goodness. What you sipping on, brother?
You know, I was feeling the need to have a little celebratory sippy sip.
I want to know a little bit more about that, brother.
The Hennessy.
Celebratory, okay.
The Hennessy. Well, let's get you. I want to see what you sipping first. We can dig into that.
You know, I'm over here with the pikes again. You know, it's getting low.
Yeah, right.
You know, in the words of you know, Lil Jon and them, you know, getting low, you know, getting low.
Exactly. Exactly. Love it.
Yes, sir. There we go.
Nice.
Little bass, little bass.
Little bass. It's interesting. I mean, maybe that's the shape of the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting that the various sounds, the various soundage that comes on out.
Talk about it. Okay. What we toasting to, brother?
You know, I like to toast to perseverance, resilience, staying at it, all the no's that we hear that are always the right no's, and the yeses that come that are the good yeses. So to all of that.
Yes, sir.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness.
Mm.
You be forgetting how Hennessy tastes.
You got the, you know, the real special version too.
Is can you see that word under above cognac?
I think it says privilege, brother.
I'm working out.
Is that brown privilege?
Exactly. It's total brown privilege. It's brown privilege in a bottle. Love it.
Privilege.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah, that's from. This is what I saw in my mind. That's from the Martha's Vineyard's African American Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
A little director's party, and they gave out goodie bags, and I was in the goodie bag. It's engraved and everything on the back. And you know, I had a film in that. You know, I'm a filmmaker. I do those little things. And right now, I'm in a celebratory mood because my next film, Virtually Free, which is about incarcerated children who come out of their prison cells to make art that's used to fight against recidivism. You know, little kids who are incarcerated, detained, come out of their prison cells, go to art gallery downtown Richmond, Virginia, and make art. And their art is to teach police officers, legislators, and all the rest of us what it means to put a child in jail.
Mm.
You know, and how we should fight against it. So that film, you know, I'm not a film festival guy because my films just haven't been in them.
Uh-huh.
But this one all of a sudden has been accepted to a few of them, and it won two. It won two. Like first one was like best documentary short at the Richmond International Film Festival, and then today it won at the DC Black Film Festival. Exactly.
That's what I'm talking about.
Chocolate City.
Yes.
DC. And it was a nice surprise. And it just, I ain't gonna lie, it feels good. You know, you work on, I didn't get paid as a director to work on that film. We didn't have enough money. So I was like, all right, let me do my hustles because the story is important, do everything else on the side, you know, taking all kinds of little projects, this and that, and this, that, and the third, doing that. You know, that's a good name for a production company.
Yo, you're not lying.
Brought to you by this, that, and the third.
Yo, you are not lying.
That's we claim that. I need to call somebody tomorrow, right? You see that exactly. Exactly. This, that, and the third production. If you want to book us for a talk, this, that, and the third production. Oh my God, that'd be so good.
I love that.
You call my attorney and accountant.
Make it happen, brother. Well, can we take a pause right quick and just acknowledge your brilliance, brother? And can we toast to you and, you know, make sure you get your flowers because you've been at it for a while and I want to hear more about it. I want to hear about the journey, if you don't mind sharing, and how it felt when you heard your name called, brother. But to you, sir, and all the great work you do, all the films you bring, all the lives you touch and like impact on a major level. Just want to shout out to you, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So much wants to push back on it, but I'm going to accept it and say thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it has been quite the journey. It just, you know, it's exciting and it's interesting, and I hope this, because awards, you know, when it comes to art, you can't really judge and award art in my mind, because art is art and it has its purpose. And this is art that I hope would be used to heal And I'm excited that this will make more people watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like part of the game. Part of the game. You can't deny how the world works. So
Mm,
this makes me excited that people will go, oh, I need to watch that now.
mm,
It's like, yes, you do.
mm-hmm.
And then go, because it's call to action type movie, then go do something.
Mm-hmm.
We should, when I first got into this project, Virtually Free, I thought I knew about prison. So I got friends in prison. My father was in for a little while. You know, all these people. I'm thinking, I know about prison. I'm a black man.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know
Mm.
about prison to the extent that I found out. And I still have so much more to learn. But I didn't know all there was to know about prison, because prison, it is, we
Mm.
have, here in America, we have worked that
My
beast,
goodness. My
worked it in really horrible, terrible, intense ways, to control, and control people. So
mm,
I hope this little film does something to fix, prevent, and change.
mm.
That's the goal. That's what my work. That's all I'm trying to do.
Amen.
Fix, prevent, and change.
For the folks who are watching, both of those who are attached to institutions, whether they're educational institutions or corporate institutions, or whether it's just the individual who's just looking for something to watch. What's the reason? What will folks get out of watching Virtually Free? I know you said it's a call to action. What do you hope happens after someone watches that film?
I hope someone becomes alerted to how deep, how impactful a detaining sentence is for a child.
Mm, mm,
No, a child is actually not incarcerated, they're detained. Adults are incarcerated, children are detained. Think about that word. Let that word right there alone. When I first started making the film, I wasn't allowed to show any of the children's faces because their images belong to the state.
oof,
That's what I was told. Like, you can't. They belong to us, and you won't give you permission to use them.
ooh,
And I was like, when you hear it, it's just like,
mm,
wow, that's a lot.
mm,
There was also discussion, which I got, that when a child is released from detention, their record is expunged. So we don't want to put on record that these kids were detained. And I was like, I get that. I fully understand that.
mm-hmm,
And the first thing y'all said was, we
mm-hmm.
own the rights and images.
Yeah, you should have started with the other one. That's what you
Right.
should have started with
Right.
the other one. Yeah.
Right. Right. So I hope that people can watch and begin to see the impact. And also, what's great about it is it's kind of it gives hope and light, because the kids are shown love and are shown support, and when given a chance, are moving forward and thriving. Not all of them, you know, but many of them, our lives have changed. I hope people can see that,
Mm-hmm.
and then realize that something you can do something. And here's an example of folks who got together, organized, set it up, and they are working to change the system.
Mm, mm. I hear that, and I would imagine, brother. I would imagine, just thinking about my perspective, and I didn't like you. I always thought, I know about jail, I know about prison, etc. I've with the Boy Scouts, we went and visited a number of different places. Then when I was in college, I taught speech and debate, or did some stuff with folks at a secure center, a detention center, for some folks up in, I think, some part of upstate New York, near Ithaca. So I knew of situations, but what I would imagine is a lot of folks probably um, feel like these folks who get locked up for whatever reason, whether it's if you're detained or you're incarcerated, the dehumanization,
Hmm.
certain folks, they might start to see them as less than, less human, or say they need to be locked up. Those folks are this, their folks are acting this way, so they deserve, etc. What I'm just trying to think about what type of empathy can someone learn or grasp, or what type of insights can folks get to the point that their heart is pricked and their mind might be open to, this is a situation that's deeper than what we think, and we need to go beneath the surface of, oh, this person did this and that's why they deserve this. Because there's a lot of times, like, even when you think about how that relates to like schools, you think about discipline and how some things are punitive and how some folks are actually policed in schools, and it's a lot of stuff that's associated to their identity, and they become dehumanized or stigmatized. Like, what would folks walk away with thinking about, you know what, I thought I knew about it, but I don't really see it the way that I should see it, because we're talking about human beings here. No matter how you slice it, we're talking about human beings. I think often folks get dehumanized or stigmatized in that way.
Mm-hmm. I think you just answered your question, of seeing, especially children, as children, not as thugs, not as, what was that word the Clintons used back in the 80s? Super predators.
Mm-hmm.
Not as super predators. Like there's a long list of words that are so damaging. Super predators, welfare queen, all those words that were used for political reason and gain. Right now we got law and order.
Oh my goodness.
Going out there. Law and order. People trying to say we're going to have some law and order. And what it does is it dehumanizes, it takes you away from thinking you're dealing with a person that may have had a bad spot, may have had some trouble, but really just needs your help in this moment. Some people do need to reform. Some people are bad. Things happen, but we got to calm things down before we end up in a really terrible, horrible spot.
Absolutely.
So that's what I want. I want people to do exactly what you ask and you answer. See folks as human. See teenagers and boys as little boys, little girls as little girls. Throwing them in the detention center. One thing I have this. You know about resource officers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a theory about, or a proposal for the resource officer fix. I think that we need to put a grandma or grandpa in the school, not a resource officer.
Absolutely.
Because why aren't you in class? You see I'm reaching back for them, and it's more like, boy, can you be in class right now? And this little grandma, oh, come on, what? Like chase you down the hall, and also show love. Show love. I keep going to that word, but I think it's so important because when people feel cared about, nurtured, and acknowledged, they behave differently. I really believe that. We all behave differently when we see that somebody cares about our well-being.
Absolutely, because that's the difference between care and concern, and then you have control and domination. That's the difference. And it's like you have this resource officer, right, who's trying to uphold law and order in a space where folks are supposed to be cared for. Their mind, their body, and their soul is supposed to be cared for. And you want control and domination. You want to flex your muscles. And let me be real too. Why is that resource officer in that school? Chances are they weren't cut out for other spots within the organization. Those are just certain chances I'm saying, possibly. So I feel like there might be other things that might be happening internally where it's like, I got to act out and act a fool to flex and prove something, not only to others, but really to myself that I can do this work. And a lot of times I feel like we might be on the other side of this brunt force because, folks are wild out here. But I think, again, it should be love. It should be about that care and concern and not that control and domination.
You bring up, I did a little project with research. Well, I was working for the company and they were hired to interview New York City police officers who worked on the MTA. And they had 6 shooters at the time. And there was a moment where Glocks were becoming very popular. It was like 1991 or so. And I'm this little kid assisting in these interview situations where they're interviewing cops all day long, trying to assess if New York police officers should get, if the MTA officers should have Glocks as opposed to 6 shooters, little, because people are committing crimes with Glocks. And I saw a certain kind of individual up in there, like, I know MTA, but, like, you got stuff to prove, my dude. You got a lot to prove. So, yeah, it's and I understand the history of the resource officer. It all started from that they wanted people in schools to keep folks who didn't belong there from coming in after the Columbine shooting. Like, that's how it started. That's how we got the resource officer. And I understand that. But I was like, ain't nobody nosier than a grandma or grandpa sitting in the front. Ain't nobody coming up to somebody knowing, Yeah, hi, this is Juanita. And I saw them dropping off the lunches, and one of them ladies, I ain't seen her ever. Y'all go check on that? Like, it would not happen. Juanita, maybe she can't get up and run and chase and tackle them. Juanita's might be able to, but ain't nobody getting past Juanita or Uncle Joe. Nobody getting past.
Talk about it. You had me at Yeah,
You
right. I'm like, you already know they on top of it.
exactly.
You already know.
And it's the kind of thing where imagine like kids will not come late anymore. Like, oh, I want to hear Miss Juanita.
Yeah, I'm not trying to hear your mouth.
Let's just get in because if you know we get late, she will have things to say. You know, I think it'd be so beautiful. Them jeans looking kind of young on you, Johnny.
Probably stay with candy. You know, always have
Exactly.
Oh, you need a cough drop, baby?
Exactly.
You gotta zip it up all the way up. All the way up. It's cold out there. Get a scarf, baby.
Right. They need a budget for pocket candy.
Yes.
That's like in a proposal for the grandma, grandpa. They need penny candy. They need tissues. You know.
Vicks Vapor Rub.
Exactly. All the things. So yeah.
Yeah, man.
But yeah. So yeah. I learned a lot, and I hope people can pick up and see that on this because it's powerful to have used art as a tool for healing. Really powerful. And I think about, right now in what is our city, the gun violence is really big and huge. And I wonder about people who don't feel supported, don't feel heard. What's going on that people think they need guns? Out shooting each other. Like it's rough. It's real rough.
It's a lot. It's really a lot, and it's it's a cycle. It's a cycle because you see things that are done to you. You consume all these messages about who you are, how you're supposed to behave or act. And then sometimes if you don't have anyone to show you something that's counter to that narrative, you become that narrative. And then you might start to project that narrative onto other folks. And it's just deep. It's deep. There's so many times it's like I'm going through different spaces, different communities, and you see certain things, you hear certain things, and you don't want to turn your nose up at it because that's your brother, that's your sister, that's your cousin, right? But it's like, dang, I'm grateful and I'm blessed because I know that could have been me if it was for one different choice, one different decision. A grandmother who wasn't praying for me, like if my grandmother wasn't praying for me and stuff like all these situations, you realize how fortunate we are. So I've never turned a nose up at anything, but I always question and wonder why. And I always ask myself, how can we make this better? And who is able to make this better? Who can change it? Is it at the government level? Is it grassroots? What is it? Is it a mixture of all the things above? It's enough to drive you, whatever you want to call it. But it's tough, man. It's tough. And you just see it. Like I go on walks or I go on drives and I just see how things are. And then I see how some folks get pushed out while others come in. And I see how sometimes we're afraid to live amongst ourselves. But the white folks come through no problem. And I'm like, is it because they're open to the fact that they can be a part of this community? Or is it because they're like, you know what? I got 911 on speed dial and they answer me. And they're here to protect me. And I know that these folks probably don't really want to mess with me, so they stay away from me, but they might mess with other people who look like them. There's just a lot of things that go on my head, man.
Yeah, you trying to unpack that's a big question. That's a big old question. That's a whole nother show.
My goodness, because I think about it, brother, and I'm like, you know how we grow up sometimes being told what we can and cannot do. In other words, we have boundaries. In other words, there are things that we've been taught, don't go too far over there because this is what can and will happen. And I think about folks and what privilege it would be just to grow up not having certain boundaries and being free. To the point where you walk in a room and you believe it automatically belongs to you. To the point where you move into a community and you say, you know what, it's mine now.
Yeah.
It's interesting, brother. And there's a lot of stuff that I always think about and wrestle with. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a long history attached to that. I mean, that's all what you're talking about. None of that is by chance. By design and setup and planning and execution. It's really is. I'm sure you've been following lately in the news that your president really has made it so that diversity, equity, inclusion training, learning about slavery, learning about the 1619 Project is being shot down and shown as un-American, and actually pushing forward with the 1776 Project. And one of my talks I say, I love it when I'm like, this is the 1776 moment. And people say, what do you mean? I said, well, the fathers of the country were in the room, shades were pulled down, it was hot, it was August, and and you know how they dress, so I can imagine what it smelled like and felt in there, because it wasn't no air, wasn't even no fans back then, you know? And they, them powder wigs were like smashing against faces. Ooh, ooh. Anyhow, um, they had the chance when some northern leaders, some northern congressional representatives were like, yo, we should end slavery because it's a bad, terrible, horrible thing and it's bondage. And we are some folks that escaped from the king to get freedom, yet we're enslaving people. And the cats from the south are like, hold on, up. If you do that, the country will fall apart. We're relying on the economic status of the South. You don't want them to pull away and fight against us. So let's not put that in the Constitution. That was a moment. They could have been like, yeah, let's put that in the Constitution. No man can be held in bondage. And some states like, nah, that's not gonna work for us. And that was a moment that happens again and again and again and again and again. People are like, well, if we do this, we'll lose members, we'll lose tuition, we'll lose partner participation, we'll lose commitment, and it might hurt our company and we'll fall apart. I'm like, well, will it? Or will those people that are just terrible and holding you back and promoting a negative position just go bye-bye and be out? Like, think about that. Think about that moment and that choice. That's the 1776 moment. And for them to come out and say that, it's really, really real.
It's amazing.
It's incredible.
And it's like, out of all the time, like all the times that you could have said something, in the moment where there's this stark reckoning, where everyone sees people are waking up to stuff, they've been asleep, I don't know how, but a lot of folks are waking up to stuff, other folks who've known it forever, and there's so much momentum for this moment that's turning into a movement. And it's like, you know what? Let's, again, if there's anything that man is good at, is marketing and always being in the center of attention. And it's like, okay, let's flip all these pieces, such as 1619 into 1776. Let's flip all this stuff in terms of anti-racism education into patriotic education. Come on, bruh.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's intentional. And we can't say it's stupid. It's actually very smart. It's very, very smart. It is brilliant political strategy. And they are going for it, and the people are falling in line like, yeah, you gotta love the country. And people love the chance to go, let's not talk about slavery. I think we talked about it, but I shout out my girl, not that I know her personally, but Isabel Wilkerson's book Caste. Do you know that the Nazis came to America to study Jim Crow, to learn how to set up Nazi America? And they looked at some of our practices and were like, that's too rough. We talked about that already?
Not in this space. Not in this space.
They were like, yo, so you mean if somebody has a drop of black in them, they're officially black, and they fall into all the Jim Crow stuff? Like, that's a little harsh. We ain't gonna do that. If you got a little bit Jewish in you, you still gonna be considered Aryan. Because they're like, we can't. That's too extreme. They looked at our practices and said it's too extreme.
That's a word.
That's right. It's amazing.
It's like, come on, y'all.
Amazing. Amazing.
Do you know who America is? It's like, come on, really?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because you have those same folks who talk about it's for the history. It's about the history of the country. It's about the history. Okay. So if we look at the history of the country, we see all these other things too, that it seems like folks are just trying to pull the curtains. It's like, oh, don't work, nah, don't go in that room. No, don't go in that drawer. It's crazy. Wow. So like your shirt says, the march continues.
Keep pushing, keep on pushing. You gotta get there to the promised land.
So if there's one thing that you're sitting with right now in the month of September, after a long 2020 that's not over yet, realizing that the march continues, what would you tell the people? Any words of inspiration, any words of motivation, any words of clarity for them? What would you tell the people?
I tell the people to look at how Black people can actually still stand up in the face of all that we face in this country. The fact that we can still stand up and have our back straight
Mm,
and keep showing up and exercising our resilience, that should stand as a model, as a beacon of light for people who are like, the world is over, what are we going to do? Because it's bad, but it's been worse.
mm,
It's on that path back to what feels like that worst time. I feel like that slogan should be "Make America Worse Again."
mm,
Because that's what's happening. So I would tell people to understand the power of who we are,
mm.
and if you need an example, look at how Black people actually show up. I was just there was just someone sent me an article about a woman in New York City. She's an artist. I won't call her out. She was an artist, and she was struggling in New York City in the early 80s. And so she couldn't find her way, wasn't getting work. So she had to take a $10,000 loan from her father to buy a loft, and of all places, Soho in the 80s. And she survived. She just sold that place for like 10, $14 million. And I was like, my mother raised my sister and I in the 80s on $13,000 a year.
Mm,
And
mm,
you're sitting here like, I had to struggle, make the sacrifice, and borrow $10,000, borrow $10,000 from my father. Oh, and now I'm selling this spot for like 10, 20, 40 million. Like, come on.
mm,
So all that said, I think I'm still an optimist. I believe. Every once in a while I'll play Sounds of Blackness. That song, optimistic. I blast it. Keep your head to the sky. Like we got it. We have to, and we have been. No matter how hard it is, we're still here. We're still standing.
mm,
Many of us has fallen and been knocked down and shot down,
mhm, mhm,
and it's still here. So that's my word. That's my word. Stay up. Look at the example. Get to work. Get to the march, and figure how you're going to take part and push forward, push through. We ain't got time to give up.
mm,
You know, Harriet Tubman had a shotgun in people's back. Like, what you mean you ain't going back?
mhm,
You going to die or you going to keep going?
mhm,
Which one is it going to be?
mhm,
you know? Yeah. How about you? What would you say to the people?
mm. First of all, I agree with everything you said in terms of, really understanding how resilient, brilliant, and powerful we are. We need to know that. And if no one else tells us that, we need to tell ourselves that. I'm also reflecting on that $10,000 loan. There was times I was afraid to ask my mother for 10 cents, man.
Right, completely.
You kidding me?
completely.
What?
I went without quarter water many a time because I wasn't going to ask for the money.
What? It's like you lucky if you find a quarter on the floor, brother. You lucky if you find a quarter on the floor. But I digress. I think in addition to what you said, I would say the difference, and I've seen this quote often, I've used it in many of my presentations, the difference between who you are and who you want to become, or the difference between what you are or what you want to become is what you'll do. What are you going to do? So thinking about the shirt that you have on, the march continues, right? March is an action word, right?
Mm.
You're moving. So we can't afford to be stagnant, and we can't afford to move in the wrong direction. So the march continues onward. And my fraternity actually, we always say onward and upward. And I believe that's the words, it's onward and upward. For me, every time I internalize that, I also think about inward and upward. I think about, Frederick Douglass in his quote where he says, for years and years, I prayed on my knees, but the minute I started praying on my feet is when things started to change. So it reminds me of faith without works is dead, right? So to have that faith, but also put that work and effort into it. You can look upward, but make sure you're also moving onward. You're not just remaining stagnant. So when I think about that march continues, when I think about what it is that we need to do as a people is to be okay with who we are, because that's more than enough. Like we always say, we have all that power. And on top of that, let's continue to push and move forward and understand the beauty of the struggle, which is us. We are the beauty in the struggle in a lot of different ways, right? But then also know that, you know, we've been here before. This is nothing new. We're going to navigate these uncharted times and, you know, uncertain times, because we've been through that. We come from a people who've been through that and have persevered and made it through. So that's not a question. We're going to make it through. What we do on the other side of things, that's important. So let's start to plan and build.
Yes.
Let's not only just resist, let's also rebuild as we dismantle. Let's also make sure that we're practicing self-care, healing, and love, and developing who we are and building community while we're resisting. Because sometimes you just get so tired because you're resisting, trying to break down, tear down, that you're not building. So I think we have to do both at the same time. It's not an either or situation, it's a both and situation.
It is.
So that's what I'd say.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. It makes me happy that I get to share this faith with you.
Likewise, brother.
Because it's encouraging and beautiful, beautiful and great words.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, great words.
Yes, sir. Well, I think we can toast to the march continuing and being I guess drum majors.
Yes.
In that march towards justice, equity, a brighter future, a brighter tomorrow, and a beautiful place that we can all be free. Mm-hmm.
I want all of it.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, these are always powerful. Always so powerful. And tell me a little phrase. For one, Frederick Douglass is just fantastic. And you also reminded me of something that Bishop Milton Granham,
okay,
New Covenant, once said to me when I was a high school kid. He said, look, let me tell you this, André. Jesus saves, but Moses invests. You know, right? He was like, you need to build. You need to build and save and put things together. You don't just pray for things to happen. Pray for the ability to do it. That always stayed with me. That was the first time I heard that from a religious leader as a teenager. And I think that connects what we're saying. So yes, that in, because you were testifying to me and I felt it. Post toast.
Post toast. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Excellent.
All right, brother. Well, it's always a pleasure to ground you at the barbershop.
So it's a good place to be.
Yes, sir.
Good place to be. Good place to be.
Well, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. Peace.
Ground Juice Barbershop.
We out.